sequence it and have a very long-term view about how are we going to do it. In the case of Malaysia, we know that getting the buy-in from the stakeholders are very important, especially the public, more than anything else. So in the case of energy efficiency, from 2015, we started with an action plan. We did not go into regulation straight away because you need to give a 10-year lead time. And our Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act will come into effect this year. But at the very least, the public has an overall view of the need why we have to do this holistically. And that also allows us enough time to put all the other infrastructure resources in place because it is expensive. Last year, we've launched the National Energy Transition Roadmap to set a very ambitious target of how we are going to switch from the conventional feedstock to more sustainable, renewable sources. We've seen 300% additional investments within a space of 1 year. So balancing this is extremely important. And in my view, governments have to be able to put the overall holistic policy and infrastructure. We are planning to rev up our renewable energy supply so that within the next 2-3 years, then we can move towards a more regional approach to this to protect the sustainability of our efforts. And ASEAN region is quite well suited for a regional integration. Of course, we have a problem with the grid because different countries have different grid capacity. But the capacity for renewable energy in ASEAN is different in different economies. You know, we have more untapped capacity in the north, more energy demand in the south. And Malaysia is going to take over the chairmanship of ASEAN in 2025. One of the flagship projects is to make sure we can progress towards an ASEAN integrated grid all the way from Laos, going through to the peninsula, connecting to Singapore and Indonesia. And by taking a regional approach, that puts that protects the transition better. And finally, we don't see energy market as a standalone. When we talk about managing the energy demand and transitioning towards decarbonization, another aspect that is very important is also to provide the whole ecosystem to the end for decarbonization. And for that, we put a lot of emphasis on CCUS. So CCUS is actually seen as part and parcel of the overall approach for managing this. And Malaysia aspires to be a global hub for CCUS. And at the very least, the first hub will come on stream in 2025. And the market is obviously regionally as well. So to sum it up, you know, while I think governments can take a straightforward approach to regulations and policies, I do feel from our experience to safeguard the acceptance of our stakeholders, first we have to roll up our sleeve and go deeper and work with the stakeholders in industry. But more importantly, it also has to take a more regional perspective to this rather than each country looking at energy transition on our own.
Yeah. Thank you, Minister Ramli. You touch upon the regional perspective, and also you talk about the how could we utilize the technology like CCUS to support us to reach our goal. But actually, mainly you talk about supply. Actually, we're going to talk about demand. So maybe next round, I will ask you more questions on the supply side, on the demand side instead of the supply side. So before that, let's move on. Madame Lina, and from the perspective of the Lama Holding WLL, and please, the floor is yours.
So I want to reiterate what His Excellency said. In the private sector, we looked at it in different way. Okay, most of the infrastructure are legacy infrastructures in Saudi, regional and international. So in order for us to have more of these legacy infrastructure and buildings to be retrofit to be more energy efficient, especially in Saudi Arabia, we have extreme weather. Now it is summer, it's like 50 degrees. So it's really hot. And everybody is using the ACs, everybody is using a lot of things to cool down. So in the factories, in the buildings, all infrastructure need a lot of energy consumption and energy usage. So in order to do that, there's a lot of things that has to be done. And really, he pinpointed the major things. I can put it in 3 maybe points, especially from the private sector point of view. First, in our region, I'm talking about maybe Saudi and more of the Gulf region and the MENA region, there is no clear regulations exactly telling us what to do. So every country, they have their own regulations, and even every entity that is governmental has their own regulations. So there is no clear regulations for us as a private sector to come and start doing what it needs to have an energy consumption efficiency. Second is the initial investment that we have to put as a private sector in order for us to use efficient materials, to have more sensors, use a lot of technologies. We need to put a lot of, initial investments there. And this is what he was talking about. So these initial investments need to be compensated somehow. Yeah. So it has to be, a dance between the government and the private sector, where incentives from the government can come to the private sector, making them more incentivized to be using more energy efficient materials and technologies. Maybe the third thing that is very important is the public awareness. Most of the people, they don't have the awareness, okay? And most of the people, they say that it is just me, so who cares? So I think the government has to put more of the awareness within the public, okay? And make sure that every one of us counts. In order for us to reach the climate goals internationally, we need everybody of us to be responsible. But the problem is, without the incentives for the public, without the incentives for the private sector, no clear regulations, no awareness, everybody saying, it's only me, I do not matter in the whole equation, but every one of us matters. So just in buildings, using efficient materials, just in buildings alone, globally, 25% it can do energy efficiency. 25% of the global efficiency can come from only buildings. Just imagine if it comes from major infrastructures, plants, other things that we can put energy efficiency. So there's a lot of things challenges that we need to look at. And as His Excellency, and excuse me because I refer to you a lot of times, but you are pinpointing everything. So a lot of the things is not to work it out as country by country, but rather than a region. Because, the grids, the electricity grids can go everywhere if we have smart grids, if we have technologies like the AI, the Internet of Things. All of this can matter in order to reach, the climate goals that globally we agreed on. And I think in the COP28, everybody was agreeing that we will not raise the climate change more than 1.5 degrees, but real things has to happen on the ground by a lot of things that need to be tackled from the government and the private sector.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Alina, very much. It's very much, you talk about the incentive and also the infrastructure and also the support from the public policy. I think it is very important. But at the same time, if we look at the private sector, do you think that we can make the case of the business model or the cost and the benefit if we have some investment, if we have some more strategies for the efficient energy? Maybe we can make some business case. We don't know, but later on we'll talk about on that. But you talk about the infrastructure and the grid. It is very, very important. Now we move on to Mr. Pang Xiaogang from the State Grid Corporation of China. Please, the floor is yours. And you can speak in Chinese.
I'll speak in Chinese. The topic today is of great significance, in my opinion. As we all know, the President of China, Mr. Xi Jinping, has solemnly made a commitment to the world. By the year of 2030, China shall reach the peaking and carbon neutralization by 2060. State Grid is the largest utility corporation in the world. Against such backdrop, we are serving China's energy consumption and supply revolution, as well as energy technology and systematic reform revolution. And we have been expanding international cooperation. It's fair to say, in recent years, we are building the new generation energy system and have achieved great results in the following 4 areas. First of all, in accelerating the building of the grid, the next generation electricity system. The grid is the hub and platform of the next generation power system, or we could call it a bridge as well. State Grid, up until now, has laid 35 ultra voltage DC and AC projects. And we use digitalization to enable these grids. Besides grid, we also facilitate the adjustment capacity, for example, the pump storage and chemical electrolytes storage capacity, so that our power system is more and more complete. Up until now, China's state grid has the most powerful capacity for resource allocation, and we have developed a lot of renewable energy capacity. In the past 10 years, the entire power consumption increased by 5.7% annually. It's a huge number with fast speed. Up until the end of last year, electricity took 128% of the end user's energy mix, much higher than many of the developed countries. It is estimated there would be continual and fast increase. And I'd like to touch upon our work on the renewable energy. China has been developing renewable energy in a fast speed. The government has mentioned desert, Gobi Desert, large-scale wind and solar power development and long-distance transmission projects are the key. So as of today, our installed capacity is 2,379 gigawatts. Among it, there are more than 1,000 gigawatts renewables So more than 50% of the entire mix in State Grid. It's a historic record. And there is another surprising number. In the past 10 years, China's wind power and PV growth by 5-folds and 40-folds, respectively. Huge number and very fast speed. As the State Grid company, we have been investing in a platform called Renewable Cloud Platform. That platform provides services to 6 million renewable stations and companies. So that is the platform's function. Thirdly, we provide efficient power business services to make the entire business environment more favorable, to leverage our advantages. In the past, I oversaw this work. Let me give you an example for a project that I oversaw, which was included into the best user case for the power industry by the World Bank. And about EV or renewable cars, renewable car developed dramatically in China, as you know. We've built a Internet of Cars platform. Charging ports, more than 500,000 charging ports have made an interface into this platform. And last, in terms of our R&D in the core technologies, we are making efforts as well. During the earlier conversation, the moderator mentioned our patent ownership. We rank #1 in China. After years of accumulation, we have come up with world-leading technologies such as ultra-voltage power transmission technology, unarguably world #1, and flexible DEC technology for the transmission of renewable energy and the control of the large grid. Many of our projects actually are world top-notch demonstrative projects. Thank you very much, Mr. Pang, for introducing the cases from State Grid, significant cases, and from the perspective of technology and platform, and the resources integration. When time allows, we shall delve into deeper questions.
And our next speaker, Mr. Benedict, and from mining sector. So in your perspective, what is the opportunities and also what are the challenges, and how do you make the energy efficiency and how to reach our net zero, our target, please?
For the world's basic industries, or mining or commodities industries, the green energy transition is both a threat and an incredible opportunity. On the one hand, of course, for the oil industry, it's a big question what will happen with oil, particularly in the transportation sector. Just to give you an idea, last year, the global electric vehicle fleet replaced around 2 million barrels of oil a day. That's more than the production of Norway, probably Malaysia.
A lot more.
A lot more than Malaysia. More than the production of Mexico or Kazakhstan. So the impact is pretty significant. On the other hand, for the mining industry, the energy transition, particularly when you look at renewable energy, energy storage, electrification of the transportation sector, it is the biggest purchase order in the history of the industry. And that comes with challenges. And when you expand a supply chain so fast, that comes with challenges of sustainability and transparency. But on average, it is a very, very positive development. And the mining industry as well will have to be electrified, right? Because it's the most efficient, it is going to be the cheapest. And these basic industries are great because they form the basis for base load demand, right? Because we all talk about demand and about efficiency, and that's very important. Probably even more important is the timing of the demand. And what I found very impressive in Mr. Pang's explanation, how China has been thinking about its energy system as a system. And why do I make the distinction, right? One is the supply of energy and the demand of energy, and that's called a system. But here, the system is actually something much bigger. It is a combination of energy supply, the distribution, the data that you require in order to balance out supply and demand at the right times, and sensors and data gathering devices that actually give you that information. And of course, price setting mechanisms, because at the moment, you see, particularly in Europe, when there was not a systems approach, there is oversupply of renewable energy, which cannot be used, which means many, many days in Europe, electricity prices are negative. It doesn't help anyone because nobody needs it, right? Some basic industries, they benefit because they buy at the time when nobody else wants to buy electricity. And of course, anyone who stores electricity has great commercial benefits. And because that system hasn't been really thought through. And this is where batteries come in. And I'm also the co-chair of an organization called the Global Battery Alliance, which is a multi-stakeholder initiative founded here at the World Economic Forum. By now we have about 180 members. The objective has to be to build an energy storage industry and supply chain associated with it that is sustainable and that helps deploy renewable energy to the demand at the right time. And China, again, is probably 10 years ahead of everyone else. Just this year, I think, compared to last year, China installed more energy storage systems for grid storage than the entire world together, right? Something around 35 gigawatt of capacity of energy storage just in one quarter, which is 2.1 times more than the year before, right? So in a way, the energy transition, everyone talks about it, but it happens here. Right? And without China, there wouldn't be an energy transition. Effectively, China is not just the main source of the technology, the main source of the manufacturing capacity, the main source of innovation, the main source of deployment. China deployed more photovoltaic cells last year than the United States has deployed in its entire history in 1 year. Right? China installed more renewable energy last year than the entire generation capacity of the African continent in 1 year. So it gives you an idea of that actually the country that's driving the energy transition is China. And I think we can learn a lot from looking at the examples, and you mentioned a few very good examples, is think about energy supply demand as a system. And for systems, you need data. And that's something where there's going to be great opportunities for AI, great opportunities for innovative companies, how to capture, how to process, and how to apply data to make an optimal efficiency allocations of electricity, of that electron through batteries into renewable energy, from renewable energy to electric vehicles, battery to grid is going to be a massive opportunity, and it will help deploy the electron to the most efficient use, and it will, in a way, solve many of those supply-demand imbalances that we see today, and will improve efficiency. So the opportunities are significant, and I always like coming here because it's just 10 years ahead of everything else. The numbers that Mr. Pang mentioned it's just incredible. So when you go to Europe or the United States, I try to explain that it's one thing to talk about the energy transition, but go to China if you want to see it happen.
Yeah, thank you very much. A very insightful perspective, mainly on the kind of the whole system of the energy and industries and innovation and the pricing and the policy together. And we should utilize the technology, like the data, like the IoT. You can make the best choices and the best efficiency. At the same time, you need a infrastructure and you need a policy. And I think we will dig deeper if we have another more time on that. And now we move on to our next speaker from the Envision, Zhang Lei. And I think you will talk now more about the AI's role in the energy efficiency and energy demand, please.
不好意思，我看在座的讲华语的表。 So I will use Chinese, as I found a lot of audience are Chinese. Well, for AI, in essence, it's an energy sector, because now we have the large language models, and we found that there's a pattern that as long as you have enough computing power, then you will have enough intelligence. Computing power comes from the power. So artificial intelligence, especially the word intelligence in Chinese, is about wisdom and power. And historically, we have new products like iron and steel, aeroplanes, and automobiles. Now we have a product called intelligence, and mankind can artificially produce intelligence so long as you have enough power or enough energy. So it's a breakthrough, and it's a disruptive technological breakthrough. So from this perspective, energy and artificial intelligence are working towards each other. On the one hand, AI needs energy. And we can see that this is the energy bottleneck. For Western countries, they have fairly slow growth in electricity. Like in US, the growth rate was only 1.5%. But with AI, all of a sudden, we find the growth rate increased by 3 percentage points. Now we have the bottleneck from the energy supply. AI brings challenges to energy supply. But on the other hand, how can we use AI to address the challenge? Now we enjoy a very large space for growth. On the one hand, we can have energy transition, and we have renewable energy and a new type of power system. The essence of such energy system is especially for renewable energy, it's about the weather forecast, whether you can predict the future development of a change of the weather or of the climate. This is just like petroleum to the petroleum reserve and the energy production in the conventional way. Now we have the renewable energy, and when we apply the energy model to our envision model, we found that the long-term climate forecast can actually be improved by 30% in terms of the accuracy. So AI can help us to better predict the climate and also the energy system. For the electricity system, we may have the fragmented energy sources like wind power, PV power, and etc. And now, if we can use AI as the brain to coordinate the fragmented energy supply or the energy sources, then we can optimize the overall energy supply system. Going downstream, we find the large model being applied to the central system, the central heated or refrigeration system, the air conditioning system. In Singapore, in our airport project, we found that the IoT-based AI management model for the air conditioning can help us to reduce 20 to 30% of the energy consumption. So in this regard, AI has a huge demand for energy supply, but once AI accomplishes the learning, and it will become a super intelligent agent, helping you to increase the energy efficiency. So AI, on the one hand, may have a huge demand for energy supply, but in mid and long term, we can see that AI can optimize the society, the social system, the energy system, and the transportation system. So it's a two-way traffic, and they are moving together. I really appreciate Mr. Zhang's point. He talked about the challenges brought forward by AI, but also the opportunities of AI. So we have the weather forecast or climate forecast, and also from the Envision Group, you provide a large model for the climate forecast. And also we can use AI to coordinate the energy supply, and we can see the role of technology.
Round of the very short time of the second round of discussion, and mainly I think maybe we can touch upon on the what is the biggest bottleneck and what is the biggest challenges, and in terms of the PPP, the private and public partnership, what kind of the best solution of us. So very quickly, and we can share some time for our very high quality audience to join us to have a final round of the discussion. So very quickly, Minister, please.
I think it's very important to make sure that the whole system, and by that it means the grid, the supply, and the policy and incentive that incentivize the demand, the whole system has to be sustainable. And the costing of it is very important, because if you are not careful, the shock to the society will be a threat to the political will to see it through, because it is not a short term. It has to be done in successive governments. A good model of PPA is where the government is willing to do everything that is necessary to build the infrastructure and to change policy and regulation, especially when it comes to pricing, because it can only be sustainable if some of the cost is socialized. Grid costs, battery costs, some of this has to be socialized, because you can do energy efficiency, you can be punitive about it. But I believe anywhere in the world, people actually want to be more efficient when it comes to energy. People do think the energy transition is sexy. They do want to be optimum with their energy consumption, but the cost is prohibitive. So unless the public part, when it comes to policy and incentive, creates a situation where the cost is and the substitute is available at a good cost, then it may not be sustainable. So it's in that perspective, for example, in the case of Malaysia, the Achilles heel of any successive governments is to reform our blanket subsidy. Our fuel is one of the cheapest in the world. It's previously is only about 50 cents per liter, which is really cheap. So usually the discussion about energy transition is always about you really need to reform that. Only then is punitive enough for people to consider EV and other energy sources. But until and unless everything moves together, it has been postponed by successive governments. Yeah. We took the view that it has to be done collectively. It's a big political risk. We are doing it. Obviously, a lot of people are not happy. But when the private sector comes in, when the mechanism for PPA is in place, that includes, for example, third-party access. And you can only do third-party access if government is agreeable to socialize some of the investments in battery and grid upgrades. So it is tricky.
So the political will is very important.
Yeah, the
right?
political will is very important.
Yeah, thank you. Lina, very briefly, because we're going to run out the time.
Very briefly, I think I need to reiterate on His Excellency's what he said exactly, but also the private sector has to put more effort in innovation and using materials that are more efficient to make sure that they are innovative in the way that they make their plants or their buildings, their infrastructure more efficient. Again, I go back to his point that also the government has to play a role in subsidizing the prices, because as private sector, we look also at the long-term, ROI on our investment. It makes sense if the government also subsidize the prices.
You're going to welcome higher prices.
Yes.
That's great from the business perspective. Thank you very much. 庞总。
我觉得呢，就是现在这个。
Well, with the rapid increase of energy demand and also the energy transition challenges, I think the most important thing is the government, the private sector, the users, and the society should make joint efforts. I think we can focus on three things. The first is the development of the market. We are promoting a unified national market for electricity. And the second is we should accelerate our efforts to come up with innovations. We have many technologies, disruptive technologies to be innovated and to be applied. And also, we should have forums like the WEF Davos Forum to strengthen communication and cooperation. Thank you.
There is the role of PPP. Very briefly, please.
If you want individuals and corporations to show the right behavior, you need to incentivize them through attractive prices. So ideally, every individual in this country, every individual in Europe or the United States becomes its own power producer and its own seller of electricity into the grid at an attractive price, whether that's through its electric vehicle that charges directly into the grid or whether it's through a solar panel on its roof. The whole county program in China was a fantastic example of successful entrepreneurship on a local level. And then you're going to see very different behavior. When governments intervene to distort prices and when subsidies are introduced, in more than less of the cases, the governments don't get it wrong, or over time those prices are wrong. So coming back to the foundation of efficient markets, you have to show transparent prices and make sure that people show the right behavior, acting according to those prices.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's very, very important and crucial for the pricing. Price should be right. Yeah, 张总。
Solving this issue of energy transition, undoubtedly, we need chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, electric engineering. As a technology company, we feel that with all these capacity in engineering aspects, we are confident to help to reach carbon zero. And globally, especially in the developing countries, market engineering, society engineering are also needed. So we should rationalize all these kind of engineering capacity, including financial engineering. Why today we're seeing the great development of wind and solar power? It is actually from a renewable law in the 1920s by the Germans. It has set up some guidances, and now we're seeing this wave of development of the solar and wind power in China. So there's huge potential in financial engineering and society engineering, and that is why, together with government in Inner Mongolia, in Chifeng, we are building the largest green power project we're trying to combine all these engineering capacity to really address such a huge challenge. Thank you, Mr. Zhang. Wonderfully said. We encountered a technical glitch.
Highlight our Transforming Energy Demand Initiative, which is led by the IBC in the WEF, actually in International Business Council, a community or forum composed by over 120 CEOs of the global businesses and supported and by the Center of the Energy and Material Team of the World Economic Forum. And we congratulate, they have done a lot of job, and we hope that we can work along that line, more actions and more awareness, and also we focus on the environment and also the PPT. The price should be right. At the same time, technology is very, very important. So the action has been made, and we welcome the whole world will join us. And with that, thank you very much. And please join me with a big applaud for thanking our panelists. Thank you very much. Minister.